Hello, everyone. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal Daily, keeping you up to date on all things Arsenal. So make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel because I said so. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking, but seriously, like this video and subscribe to the channel. On today's show, we're going to be talking about Jamie Carragher's harsh assessment of Arsenal's title hopes, Arsenal's plan to make a Kiwior-like signing in January, Arteta's confirmation of Kai's role, and the Gunners becoming the new thugs of the Premier League. Let's get started.
I'm not so sure. I don't think they are much better defensively because actually we're talking about a team going from maybe third best defence to the best at the moment. And could that little difference make a difference? Of course. But we're talking about a team who are going from almost the second best attack to sixth, even one of the stats is 11th. Now, we're still only, a third of the way through the season. Now, I'm not. I think if Arsenal continue how they are, and if this is the Arsenal that we're going to see this season, I don't think that can win the league. I really don't.
Jamie Carragher is extremely smart. He's a very clever analyst, and he knows how to create an argument, but his argument has holes in it. And I'm going to tell you what those holes are. We've spoken about Arsenal's attack ad nauseum on She Knows Arsenal, and I do have concerns, but those concerns are not fixed. They can be improved upon. This Jamie Carragher made it seem as though they could not. Like this was the end form of Arsenal. We all know that there are multiple reasons why or different puzzle pieces that I think have came together to create a little bit of a mess in terms of Arsenal's attack, but that doesn't mean it can't be solved. But looking at the numbers, he focused on where Arsenal rank instead of the actual numerical value. Going from the second best attack to the sixth seems drastic, but if the difference in the numbers is 2.3 to 2.1 in goals scored from 2002 to 2023, from last season to this season, and Liverpool, the oh-so-great attacking side, has one more goal than Arsenal, it's not as deep as it seems. It is a concern that we're not as fluid in attack, but it would be more alarming if we weren't scoring goals at all. And the disregard for being a great defensive side when the old adage has always been defense wins trophies or wins titles, to me, is really contradictory. He was very dismissive of Arsenal's defensive record, where last season the entire narrative was, oh, they're scoring goals, but there's holes at the back. If this and this and this and this happens, if they lose Saliba, if they don't do this, they won't be able to win the title because the defense is not strong enough. Now that the defense is really strong, it's, oh my gosh, they're not scoring enough goals from open play. Also, good teams find a way to win doesn't seem to apply to Arsenal ever. He also said that games have gone down to the wire, which I completely disagree with. They really haven't, because Brentford, who most top six sides have a difficult time against, that went down to the wire. But other than that, games outside the top six plus Newcastle, those clashes have been relatively routine. I think Forest, Palace, Everton, Sheffield, and Burnley and Bournemouth, Arsenal largely controlled those matches, and the other team had little to no opportunities, and Arsenal put the game away. So I think games not being 4-5-0 every single time doesn't necessarily equate to going down to the wire. Going down to the wire is, needing a goal in the 88th minute or in extra time. But winning a game 2-1, 2-0, 1-0, 3-1, 4-0, those are not going down to the wire. Especially when you consider, if you look at everybody else's score lines, I think that everything pretty much aligns. It's not like City are blowing teams away every single game either. I think he's being really disingenuous there. And he conveniently forgot to mention how teams are playing against us. Last season, they didn't respect us, and come December, there were tons of teams that decided to park the bus, and we're still trying to figure that out. We also can't ignore the amount of injuries to key players that Arsenal have had, and that's also caused a lack of consistency. Arsenal's injuries have largely been ignored, but every time I turn on the television to watch the Premier League, I hear about Manchester United and Newcastle and everybody else's injuries, despite Arsenal having the most injuries this season. So I'm not saying that Jamie Carragher is wrong. Arsenal will need to score more from open play to win the league, but it's not insurmountable. It's not something that can't be improved upon. I just think he left things out simply because he wanted to sensationalize a picture where Arsenal, a team that scored 88 goals last season, is somehow broken and almost can't be fixed, and this is it. Arsenal need to adapt to their new normal to score more goals from open play. I talked about how Arsenal can do this and who we have in our team and how we can adapt the tactics with what we have to do that, as well as what needs to happen in the next couple of windows. If you're interested in seeing a more deep dive into breaking down the deep block, scoring more goals from open play, you guys can do that on the Brentford Patreon pod. The link is in the description. But the average goal scored for the Premier League champions since 2003 has been 85. Arsenal scored 88 last season, and we're on track for somewhere around 82 goals. The goals against has been 29, and Arsenal gave up 43 last season and are on track to only concede 32. So this is title-winning form, despite the Premier League and the media trying to make it seem like Arsenal are really struggling to score goals. They're not struggling to score goals. They're struggling to create chances from open play, but they're finding other ways to get the job done. And their defense is so good that they don't have to score 3 or 4 goals a game. They only need to score 1 or 2. Could that be better? Absolutely. Does it need to be better? It will get better. But to pretend as though this is not title winning form is so disingenuous. And I get where he was coming from. It's very easy to just put it out there and put up the numbers and say, well, this is the facts. But there's a lot of context that he left out. And when you look at other teams and what they look like, Arsenal don't have more problems than everybody else. When you look at the other teams that are considered title challengers, you have Manchester City, who are the holders, and then you have Liverpool. Those teams all have issues. They all have issues. So Arsenal's issue is scoring from open play, but Arsenal have a better defense than other people. Liverpool are scoring goals, but their defense is a little bit leaky. Manchester City don't look quite as good as they did last season. So Arsenal being picked out of the bunch feels a little bit strange, considering nobody really looks that good right now. And nobody will probably look that good until we get to the second half of the season. And my last point on this is adaptation, which I think, as much people hate the word, it's a process, and there are new players in new roles at Arsenal. We have Declan Rice, who has adapted really well and has justified his price tag multiple times. But he's different than Thomas Partey, and he's still adapting to Arsenal's way of play. I don't think that this is Declan Rice's final form at Arsenal at all. I think he will get much better, will learn how to pass the ball in between the lines, will learn how to be a little bit cuter on the ball. He will get to that point, but adaptation is key. And there are new players in new roles, and one of those is Kai Havertz. Mikel Arteta believes Kai Havertz can master the left center mid role at Arsenal. There is a podcast on The Athletic that I do think every single Arsenal fan should go and listen to. It's about 38 minutes long. I will give you the Cliff Notes version now, but after you're done watching this, I really do think that you should go and listen to that podcast. It was so informational and informative around Kai Havertz, how he got here, what he was like in Germany, what his best position is, how does Arteta feel about him, how Chelsea felt about him, and a little bit about his salary as well. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version now. You guys can get the rest of the information there. But the first thing that they spoke about was Arteta always wanting 2 number 10s and a holder, which people fought me tooth and nail over the summer about what Kai Havertz was coming in to do. He was coming in to play left center mid, y'all. And the biggest indicator of that was not only David Ornstein talking about it, who usually has good sources and good information. Don't bring up the Pepe thing. It's like somebody can get something right a million times, and then the one time that they get something wrong, it's like, oh, well, he's never right. If you're right more times than you're wrong, you're pretty reliable, right? And so David Ornstein saying that he was the left center mid replacement for Granit Xhaka, if that wasn't a good enough giveaway for you guys on where Arteta saw him, I think one of the bigger indications of where Arteta saw him playing was where he started to play when the season started. in the first 4 or 5 games of the season, where did Kai Havertz play? Where did he play, you guys? Left center mid. And so, yeah, as time went on, Arteta tried him in different positions. I think to give him a little bit of confidence, take him out of the firing line, to try different things, to get different looks. But he came in to play left center mid, like I told you guys. And if Arteta always wanted to play 2 number 10s and a holder, what does that tell you about Thomas Partey? I've told you guys this to blue in the face. The plan was always to have Declan Rice play the number 6 role, Kai Havertz play left center mid, and Odegaard play right center mid. But you guys didn't want to listen. Interest went back to Arsenal and in Germany. So Arsenal actually were interested in Kai Havertz before he went to Chelsea. They wanted to give him a development role in the academy as well. A lot of good information on that. So some of the interest went all the way back to Francis Kachigau and even beyond that. So he's always been on Arsenal's radar. It's not just an Arteta thing, but clearly the club always felt like he was a very talented player, and most consider Kai Havertz a generational talent. Now, so is Martin Odegaard was considered a generational talent, and sometimes you make the wrong move. Going to the wrong club at a certain time can really stunt your growth and almost end your career. And so we're seeing quite a few players that are going for big fees that end up in places that don't necessarily suit them, and then boom, it's like career done. Good example of that is probably like Jadon Sancho, you know? And so Kai Havertz kind of has a little bit of that around him, where he was considered this great talent. If you guys go back and watch some of his comps from when he was in Germany, when you see like all the teams that were interested in him, so everybody from Real Madrid to Bayern to Chelsea, everybody was interested in this player. So he was largely considered a generational talent, not as consistent in the German setup as other players like Sané and Brandt. So that's why he doesn't get as much playing time under certain managers, but largely considered one of the biggest talents in Germany. And I think Germany is still trying to figure out how to get the best out of him, how to get him in his right position. We also saw that Nagelsmann wanted to play him at left back. He was actually just left center mid in possession. And so everybody kind of knows what his position is, but for a while, multiple coaches were playing him in a different position because they didn't have a center forward. Germany didn't have a center forward, so they played Kai Havertz there. Chelsea didn't have a center forward, so they played Kai Havertz there. And so he lost 3 years of his career playing in a position that doesn't suit him, because even Chelsea knew that Kai Havertz was a center midfielder. That was the information that David Ornstein got from Chelsea. But the only reason why he didn't play there is because Mount was already there. So they're playing him out of position for multiple years, and they expect him to play well? No. And then the German expert that was on there said that he needs to be facing forward, linking up with forwards and ghosting into the box. That's where he does his best work. So again, he's not a number 9. He can play false 9, but really his best position is like a 10/8, you know? And they also spoke about how he has the info in his head. He understands tactics. He's a very smart, intelligent player. But right now, he's having an issue executing that at a high level consistently, which is why we see bits and pieces of good things from Kai Havertz, but not like a full 90. And so it may just take time. Odegaard took a whole half season to kind of adapt to Arsenal, and then even like a little bit of his first full season to really get his feet underneath him. And we didn't see the full Odegaard until the season after. And so I do think we have to maybe just accept that this was never going to be something that just like that. This player has been played out of position for so long that he's going to have to relearn how to do those midfielder things. If you played like a striker for 3 years, it's going to take you a while to get back into midfield mode. And oh, by the way, your body's much different because you grew 2 inches. And they also spoke about that his body went from like a sprinter's body into a long distance cross country runner's body. And so those things change his mechanics as well. So again, I implore you to go listen to it because I think it's really insightful. They also spoke about who Arsenal were also looking at that time. They looked at Barella. That will kill some of you guys. I know. We looked at Barella, Kudus, and Mount. So, but once Arsenal found out that Kai Havertz had interest from Real Madrid, they jumped on the opportunity to bring him to Arsenal. And once he found out that he had the opportunity to go to Arsenal, he was really committed to the idea, and he only wanted to speak to Arsenal, which again is a big part of the philosophy. Arsenal only want players that are desperate to come to Arsenal, which I also think is a really important thing. He's highly regarded at the club, and he's a hard worker with a positive attitude. The last little bit here is the confidence. And so once the confidence is up, we're hoping that we see a player that is generational, kind of like what we got from Odegaard. Once you gave him the time to adapt, you gave him some patience, he became the player that people always imagined him to be at Real Madrid. And so it may just take time. The thing that stood out to me the most is his base fee for his salary. So in the summer, I did not believe this, but it is 275K per week. That is what David Ornstein said. So he's one of the top earners at Arsenal, which is a big deal because you have to get value for money. If you're spending £275,000 per week on a player and you spent 65 million on them, you expect that player to make a huge difference in your team. So I expect Arsenal to continue to persevere with Havertz in the left center mid position or in a midfield position, period, in order to get the best out of him, because that's what we really need. I don't think he's going to be a striker or some option at false nine. Arteta will figure out a way to get those midfielder instincts back out. So will Rice, Havertz, Odegaard ever really work, or was it just good on paper? I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section what you think about that. But maybe having a certain defender back in the mix will complete the puzzle. You guys know who I'm talking about there. But until then, let's talk about Arsenal's pursuit of another center back. Arsenal plan to make another Kivior-like signing in January. There's no way somebody in our situation would decide to buy a defender in January instead of something else. In walks Mikel Arteta, the lover of any sort of defender that you could find. He knows a defender. That's what I'll tell you that. He knows how to buy defenders. The situation is that it has been mentioned by several in the knows that Arsenal could go for a defender in January. And so this has been said by AFC Camden. He said, wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal move early for a defender in January, similar to Kivior signing, maybe someone who needs to develop but can fill in when needed. Tomiyasu is playing a major role right now, but will be unavailable in January, and Timber will be out with an ACL indefinitely or for a longer period of time. I know people are saying, oh, January, he's going to be back. But I do think that that's really just people trying to get clicks. It's an ACL takes a really long time to come back from. And really, we don't want to rush him back, right? So Arsenal are kind of short at the back, and we are a major injury away from feeling uncomfortable with the options that we have back there. If something were to happen to Ben White and you have to play Tomiyasu on the right, and something then were to happen to Zinchenko, then, what are we going to do? If something happens to Saliba or Gabriel, I think we also feel a little bit uncomfortable with the players that are going to come in to that position, because none of them really have the physical attributes to the exact same thing as they do, right? And after what happened last season, I think you can understand why Arsenal will be looking at a defender. Arsenal have been linked to Romanian center back Radu Dragusin. He has been also linked to several other Premier League clubs. Newcastle are said to be really interested, as well as Spurs. And this is, here's the situation with him. So he's 21 years old, and he just signed a new deal. He extended his contract with Genoa for another 12 months, a deal worth 1 million euros. It also includes a release clause of 30 million euros, and it's an amount that could definitely be met by Premier League clubs. His agent has said that we're in no rush to leave Genoa, yet and still you're out in the media talking about it on a daily basis, so you desperate. But if a 30 million euro offer in the winter came, they would be crazy to turn it down, even if they need him. For Genoa, the most expensive transfer in their history is 30 million, and Radu would match that. Genoa center back Dragusin's agent has also said, I have been in London for some time. and have met weekly, almost weekly meetings with important teams. We are getting closer. I spoke with Newcastle, with Arsenal and Tottenham. I also have messages with them, conversations. They are teams that ask. Listen, for somebody who's not desperate to leave Genoa, you sure are talking like an agent that's trying to get your player out of Genoa. I want to say that with 100% by next summer, Radu will play for not a strong, but very strong club. So that completely takes Spurs out of the conversation there. But let me know in the comments right now if you want Radu Dragusin at Arsenal. There was an IFAB meeting at Heathrow on Tuesday to look at player behavior, including proposals for further trials of sin bins at grassroots level and potential trial of only captains speaking to the referee. The board will be updated on ongoing FIFA-led review of VAR protocol. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, though, I need to ask why we're being painted as the thugs of the Premier League. Why are we on the thumbnail of this report and not Lewis Dunk, who called Anthony Taylor an effing bellend before he got sent off the other day? See, they're not slick. We see what you're doing. Mikel Arteta is the face of evil, abusive managers, yet it was Pochettino and Ten Hag watching from the stands because they were serving suspensions for 3 yellow cards less than halfway through the season. Arsenal are now the face of thuggery and abuse, but we have a soft underbelly and can be bullied? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Anyways, let's read the rest of this report, because I think that this is interesting how they're focusing on this. But the trials designed to stop players surrounding the refs during flashpoint moments could get the green light at a meeting of the football's lawmaking body in London on Tuesday. Tackling poor participant behavior is a top priority for the International Football Association board, not getting calls right or anything like that, but, just players coming up to the refs. Players surrounding the referees and assistants after controversial incidents has become a common sight in the modern game. But the IFAB is determined to limit the contact in such situations to respectful dialogue between the referee and the team captain. So, let's see. Like, the way that they want to kind of do this is, one consideration is creating a no-go zone around an official, which only a captain can enter, but testing will be required to see how effective and practical this is in reality. Approval of trials in top-level competitions could be granted on Tuesday to follow those initial tests, with lawmakers keen to move quickly on this issue. Sin bids for bad behavior, which has been utilized at grassroots, blah, 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 blah. So, and cooling down periods. I think, listen, I'm trying to understand why that this is being focused on. I don't think that these are the things like, okay, so we don't want to be surrounded anymore, but that's always what's happened in football. If you go back and watch football games back in like the early 2000s, this always happened. So why is it a big problem now? Is it just because of social media and the fact that now managers are speaking out on it and it's been going viral? What is it? They kind of get it, but I think this crusade to protect the referees, all of this energy and time and money would be better utilized by trying to get the referees to make better decisions and to get the calls right. I think the better the calls are, especially because when they said VAR was being introduced, the whole point of it was to get more things right. And we're seeing on like a weekly basis, i.e., look at what happened to Gary O'Neill and Wolves just today. It's consistent and it's frequent and it's every single game week that we're talking about refereeing decisions rather than the actual football. So the key to getting players and managers and everybody off your back is to actually do better at your job than trying to protect referees. They've always surrounded the refs, and the protocol for it is if you go over the line like Lewis Dunk did the other day, then you get a yellow card or a red card and you're sent off. Sin bins and no-go zones. I mean, are we in kindergarten or what? Like, let's move on from this nonsense. I don't think this is important, but what I do think is important is VAR lawmakers considering VAR to get involved with free kicks, corners, and second yellows. I've been saying for a long time that second yellows should be reviewed by VAR. I think that's a practical move to improve the game that's not like babying everybody and trying to make it into like a bigger circus than what it is. I want to know from your guys' perspective though, what do you think, which one of these changes for you makes the biggest positive change in the game? What would you like to see done? The VAR getting involved in corners, getting involved in yellows, second yellows, or the surrounding of the referees? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, that's it for the show. I hope you guys really enjoyed. Make sure, again, that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment, because commenting is so important. I asked you guys several times within this video. Did you guys notice that I said get in the comments? So even if you say like, Jess, I just love the show, or Jess, I hate your opinion on this, that all helps. So go ahead and get in the comments and help your girl out. We will be back in action on the channel after the Lens game. That's kind of like the next time. Unless I decide to throw a little something out there on the channel between now and then. The next time that you'll see me is a watch along, actually, for Lens at the Emirates against Arsenal in the Champions League. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss another show. Set your notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.